coach. And so what I do is I work with my clients to help them lose weight and have more energy and generally be happy with their lives. And one part of that is working on sugar cravings, because I know that's a big issue for a lot of people out there today. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about sugar today. But so, first my story. I grew up eating pretty healthy. My dad was a chiropractor, so we ate a little bit healthier than most people did. But I still ate a lot of sugar as a kid. My brothers and sisters, we ate a lot of sugar. And my favorite memory, kind of my favorite sugar memory, is we would go to my grandma's house, my grandma Mary's house, and it would just be like sugar nonstop, like sugar 24 hours of the day. We would wake up in the morning, have like the little individual boxes of cereal, the sugary cereal, Frosted Flakes. We'd have, and we never had that at home, we'd have the toast with the peanut butter with the sugar in it. We had the natural peanut butter at home. At Grandma Mary's, we had like the real hydrogenated oil, sugar, Skippy and Jif stuff, and the jelly with the added sugar. We didn't have that at home. That was just breakfast. And for lunch we had SpaghettiOs, tons of sugar in those. And during the afternoon, we'd make Jello jigglers. That was the big thing at Grandma Mary's. So we'd all get our own flavors of Jello, and we'd make the pans of Jello and cut them out with the cookie cutters. And we'd be eating Jello jigglers in the afternoon. Then at night, we'd have a nice dinner. My grandma was a great cook. But one thing that always went with dinner was this salad. It was called Snicker apple salad, which was basically Granny Smith apples and Snicker bars cut up, all mixed together with Cool Whip.
That's amazing.
And we loved that salad. Loved the salad. That was the salad. And then before we'd go to bed, we'd usually have kind of like a snack. We'd have some chips. Cheddar and sour cream were my favorite chips. And then we'd have these Kool-Aid coolers, little plastic bottles of this blue and green and red colored drinks. Then she'd wonder why we couldn't sleep. But so I grew up eating a decent amount of sugar. And over the years, I became interested in nutrition probably about 10 years ago. Became really interested in it. And started studying myself independently. Really started reading more and more about nutrition. And gradually started working on my own diet over time. Gradually making changes, making small changes. And that got me eating a pretty healthy diet after a while. But still I was having some trouble. I, just as recently as maybe about a year or two ago, I still wasn't eating the greatest. I would wake up in the morning, eat some breakfast, and then just have this huge crash at about 10:30 in the morning at work. I would just be completely out of it, like unable to do anything. So I'd kind of be in this low period for a while. Eventually it would get time to eat lunch, and I would wake up a little bit, and I'd be perked up a little bit after lunch, and then at 2:30 in the afternoon, I would just crash again. I would literally fall asleep at my desk. Thankfully I had an office, so I would just close the door. I would fall asleep. Like, I could not keep myself awake at about 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. It was unbearable. So then, about that time, I realized I had a couple other health challenges going on. I realized I really need to make a change. I really need to do something different. So I started reaching out for help. I worked with a couple people. I worked with a health coach, who does similar to the kind of things that I do today. And, she really helped me out and helped me change up my diet. Made a lot of changes. That eventually motivated me to go and study and get certified as a health coach, because just this experience that I have made me so motivated that I want to take my experience and use it to help other people. That's really what I decided I wanted to do, and I realized this is really a passion of mine, nutrition, and taking what I know and using it to help people, using it to inspire people to heal themselves, and inspire people to make changes, and inspire people to live happier lives. And so that's what leads me to this talk with you today. Is I want to share a little bit about sugar and about some of the background behind sugar cravings. A lot of you mentioned you're wondering, why do I have these cravings? they're kind of a mystery sometimes. So we're going to talk a little bit about why they exist and what can be done about them. And that's what we're going to do today. But so first, I'd just like to, because my style is I like these things to be a little bit more interactive, because I find that we learn a lot more when we're all sharing together. So I'm going to start out, I'm going to have you guys just pair up and find a partner, and I just want you to share with the other person what your name is and kind of what your sweet treat was growing up, what your favorite sweet was as a kid, kind of what your favorite sweet is now, and a little bit about what effects you find that sugar has on you. Like I mentioned, it made me crash, and then it made me go up, and then it made me crash again in the afternoon before I fall asleep. So I'm going to have you do that, have you guys pair up. Person with the shorter hair is going to go first, and I'll give the first person about 4 minutes to tell their story, and then I'll let you guys know when it's time to switch and time for the other person to go. So I'll let you guys go ahead and pair up your relationship with sugar. And in order to do that, I'm going to need you guys to be here with me 100%, as if your life depends on it. Because in actuality, it does. Because the food that you eat, it gets absorbed into your body, you digest it, and it turns into your blood, it turns into your cells, and eventually turns into your body. And basically, my physical body is a summation of all the food that I've eaten in my life. So it's a huge, it's a huge issue. It's a very important issue. And not only does food become your body, but it even becomes your thoughts. I know David had mentioned earlier, that sometimes he feels more angry after he eats sugar. And that's a big thing. You might be eating some sugar, and then a little while later you might be arguing with a friend of yours or a loved one, and you're wondering, what happened? Like, that's not me. Like, who is this demon inside me that sugar really needs? But so food is such a huge topic, and that's why I'm so interested in it and so passionate about it. Because I think it's so important that if I can inspire people to change what they eat, it can completely transform their lives. And so my goal today is to really get you in touch with how food affects your health and how sugar affects your health, your physical health, your emotions, your thoughts. Because when you get the food part of your life straightened out, your life will definitely improve. So we talked about a couple of different problems that sugar can cause for us, whether it be crashing in the middle of the afternoon or making you angry, making you upset, taking you on kind of this emotional roller coaster. And there's a woman by the name of Nancy Alberton who actually wrote a book entitled 146 Reasons Why Sugar is Bad for Your Health. Something you guys might want to check out. But she lists all kinds of different reasons that just with your physical body, sugar can have an effect on. So it can affect your immune system, it can affect how you absorb the minerals that you eat, like calcium, magnesium. It can cause hypoglycemia, like I mentioned, and that's a really big topic. That's what I was dealing with. In the story that I mentioned is hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. So, our body is set up to maintain balance, maintain homeostasis at all times. So our body really wants to have a steady blood sugar level that's going to have us have consistent energy throughout the day and kind of keep things on the straight and narrow. But the problem is we've gotten so messed up with all the sugar and the processed foods, soda and candy that we're eating and drinking, that we've thrown the system out of whack and permanently kind of messed things up a little bit. So, because we're eating sugar, or when we eat sugar, it's going to kind of make our blood sugar go up really high, and I'm sure you guys know afterwards you get the crash, and you reach for some more sugar to kind of pick you back up, because now you're at this low point, you want to get back up. And doing this over and over again will consistently cause things to be a little bit out of whack. And so it'll set your default to not be that steady like it should be. Kind of sets your default to be lower than it should be. Or it could be higher than it should be. I'm sure you guys are familiar with diabetes and insulin resistance and things like that. That's in that case. But in my own case, I had hypoglycemia, so that's, my blood sugar would get really low and I would just fall asleep, be unable to do any work. So that's one of the big issues with sugar. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Obviously, sugar can contribute to obesity. We're seeing so much more diabetes and so much more overweight in younger and younger children these days. Now you see kids out on the playground, some of them are 5 and 6 years old and they're already overweight. Some of them have diabetes already. They're going home to get their insulin shot. It's just, it's sad, it's terrible. So obesity, heart disease, osteoporosis, cancer, 142 other reasons. So basically, we know that sugar is a problem. That's why we're here. But the other thing is, maybe sugar is not the problem. Maybe sugar is actually the solution. Because like I said, our bodies, we have this infinite innate wisdom. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that topic, but we're programmed to maintain balance like this, balance with the blood sugar. We know when to sleep, we know when to eat, we know when to, our heart just keeps beating. We don't have to breathe without thinking about it. So our body, wants to maintain this balance. We've kind of lost it over the years because back in the 18th century or so, the average individual consumption of sugar in America was 5 pounds per person per year. Anybody want to guess what the average sugar consumption is per person per year? Right?
I'm frightened to hear that answer.
Any thoughts?
It's like 300 or something.
Not quite.
Can't be that. It's like 20 pounds. 140.
Like 140. About that. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. 140 pounds of sugar per person per year. And that's just the average. So there's a lot of people that are eating a lot more than that. So a lot of people aren't eating 300 pounds probably. Which is just, it's crazy. And so I was saying before, that's why we're seeing kind of this obesity epidemic. We're seeing so much more diabetes. We're seeing so much more trouble, with cancer. Nowadays, around 1950, I don't remember the exact statistic, but I believe about 1 in 40 people had cancer, developed cancer, died of cancer. Now, does anybody want to hazard a guess at the statistics for cancer? How likely you are to get it? 1 in 3 women are destined to get cancer, and 1 in 2 men. Right now. The numbers are only going up. And that's something that I'm actually passionate about because my grandmother, Grandma Mary, who I told you about, she developed lung cancer in 1996. And she beat it the first time. She survived for 9 more years. But eventually in 2005, she died of lung cancer. And she was just so important to us and so such an inspiration, just the kindest person you would ever meet anywhere. That she's really one of the inspirations for me doing the work that I'm doing. And I'd eventually like to work with cancer patients someday, and to work with them and educate them about the healing power of food, and help them change their lives. So that's my big dream. And on my path to getting there, I'm going to help all you guys with sugar today. So that's why we're here. So does anybody else have the same experience that I had, where you kind of get tired and you're looking for sugar kind of to pick you up and get you back up? Show of hands. Anybody? Probably everybody. So that's what I was talking about with the low blood sugar. You're looking for something in that moment. So that's what I meant when I said that sugar is the solution, is that your body's out of balance at that point, and you're looking for something to bring her back up. So in that moment, you're reaching to sugar, to bring you back up to the stable level where you want to be. And so, some people, is anybody a Snapple drinker at all? Mike?
Snapple.
Okay.
Raspberry iced tea.
Raspberry iced tea, nice. I was a big, so we didn't drink soda when I was a kid. Like I said, we were a little bit healthier than some other families because my dad was a chiropractor. But we drank Snapple. And my favorite was kiwi strawberry when I was a kid. But lemonade also was great. In the summertime, it's getting hot outside, get some lemonade. So in this Snapple bottle, so this is what a lot of people are reaching for when they're looking for that pick-me-up. In this Snapple bottle is 47 grams of sugar. And so that's what is that exactly? 47 grams? Like it's 47 grams is about 12 teaspoons, which is about a quarter cup of sugar. So within this Snapple bottle, this is what's in there right here. This is how much sugar that's in there. And so people, so when they get low and they're reaching for this, maybe you have one in the morning, maybe you have something in the afternoon or at night. This is what you're getting every time. So, you hear that statistic, 150 pounds of sugar per year, and you wonder how does anybody eat that much? That's like half a pound of sugar a day. But, have this in your beverage in the morning, have this a couple times a day, have sugar in all the foods that you're eating, and it adds up pretty quickly. So I'll pass this around just so you guys can just feel the weight of that, just how much that is in here. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, of course.
Sugar that we use, is that like that white sugar, or is it some of that even more chemically processed sugar, like Splenda, or because I know a lot of times there's certain things that it's not makes any better. I just wonder about that.
In let's say look at Snapple. Snapple has sugar. Just sugar in here, so just the white stuff.
The natural stuff.
The natural stuff, yeah. So, they were using the high fructose corn syrup, now there's been backlash against that, so now the big marketing ploy is that Pepsi is throwback and Mountain Dew is throwback and has real sugar, made with real sugar, so now it's better for you. But I'll talk a little bit more about sweeteners later, and kind of, because artificial sweeteners, most of them are not very good, so I'm glad you're not a Diet Coke drinker or anything yet, so that's good. Okay. Anybody a Diet soda drinker? Okay, I've got so many friends. Diet Coke, yeah. That's okay, I won't judge. I'll talk a little bit more later about sweeteners and stuff. Now, one concept that kind of relates to this idea of balance is that our bodies always want to stay in balance, and so in traditional Chinese medicine they have this concept of yin and yang. And sugar in that system is a very yin food. So yin is very expansive and very kind of airy and uplifting, whereas the yang side of things is very grounded and very constrictive and very tight. And so what happens is that in our society, generally Americans, we're a very kind of yang society. We're very constricted, we're very tight, we're very tense, a lot of stress. Everybody's got stress at work and stress in their family and stress all the time. So just stress. And so they're so tight, and so then they look to something to kind of have a release from that and have a little bit of a expansion from that. And so, one way to do that is to reach for sugar. Like alcohol is another very kind of yin thing. And so if you go to a bar, the bartenders know this. They've got the little dish of salty peanuts out in the bar, so you're eating those things. So salt, kind of salt and meat and fat is very, very yang, very grounding. I'm not saying those things are bad, but that's kind of what they are. So the bartenders know this. They have the salty dish there, which is going to make you buy more and more drinks, make more money for the bar. When you go to a restaurant, they put a ton of salt in the food so that when you're eating there, you want to buy a lot of drinks for them. That's where they make the money. And so, I know my own experience is that if I'm, doing something really stressful and doing something really intense, I'm focusing intensely for a long time. After I get done with that, I'm like, kind of step back, I'm like, I need something right now. Like, I need like an apple or some water or something. So I can definitely sense that myself. So does anybody have an example of how they've seen that in their own life? How they've kind of seen this? Mike, do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, Karen and I were talking about sort of, you can eat emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that sort of, I've had that experience with if I've been stressed or very intensely working on something, that afterwards I might not be super hungry, I might know it's not good for me, but I could reach for sweets just to have a release of some sort. I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but I think you're absolutely right.
What about you, Jalil?
Nothing I'm thinking
Okay. You were shaking your head, so I figured you...
I agree with what he's saying.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but that's definitely it. Like so I guess that's a good lead into my next point is maybe what should you do when you have a sugar craving? So you're really stressed out, you're really tight, and that craving hits. What should you do at that point? So you mentioned it could be an emotional kind of thing. So what I recommend my clients to do is first when they have some kind of a craving, maybe just kind of step back, be aware of it, be conscious of it, and maybe just take a breath to start out. Take a deep breath, and just kind of look at yourself and realize what's going on right there in that moment. What do you need in that moment? Do you need a little bit of relaxation? Do you need a little bit of release from stress? Do you need to go take a walk? What do you need in that moment? The second thing you can do then is drink a glass of water, because most people in America, I've heard 90% or something is the statistic, are chronically dehydrated, not getting enough water. And so maybe if you have a craving in that moment, maybe first step, step back, take a breath, de-stress a little bit. Step 2, drink a glass of water, and wait just a minute or two, and maybe see how your craving's doing at that point.
And have you found with your clients, some people that even those 2 small steps can help them in certain circumstances?
Definitely. The biggest thing is even just being more aware of it, being more conscious of it, because sometimes you're not even thinking about it. You're just kind of in the moment. You're like, I need something, you just grab something, grab something sugary, and you're still continuing with your work. So that the biggest problem is people aren't really aware, aren't really conscious of what they're eating. That's one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have. So even just making a point to really, just really be more aware, be more conscious in the moment of what's going on for you. What do you need in that moment? And that brings me to another point, which is a really big point for a lot of people, is this concept that I call primary food. And what primary food is the fact that there are a lot of things in life that nourish us and that fulfill us that aren't actually food at all. Sometimes if you have the primary food set up correctly, you don't even need to worry about the secondary or the food actually too much. So examples of primary food are different things like having positive relationships, having a career that you're passionate about, getting exercise and moving your body, different things like that, because I'm sure you guys have all had the experience when you first meet that special guy or girl or something, and you're just totally enamored with them. You can't even think about eating at that point. Has anybody else had that experience? Lots of nodding heads. So sometimes, getting that stuff in place, then the actual food's not as big of an issue. So maybe, maybe in those moments, maybe when you have this craving, maybe when you step back, like we were saying, maybe you find, what do I need in this moment? Maybe I need to, maybe I need to connect with someone. Maybe I need to talk with someone. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Maybe I need to be comforted in this moment. Maybe I need a hug in this moment. Maybe I need to go and take a walk. And so one thing that I have my clients do also is create a thing I like to call a nourishment menu, which are a lot of different things that aren't food that that you could reach to in that moment, that would really pick you up and that would really fulfill you and that would really bring you up to where you want to be. So different examples like this for me, say, one thing I love to do is I love to sing. So I started taking singing lessons about a year ago, and I love performing. I was just out doing karaoke on Thursday nights. And after that, I was just on fire. I was just on top of the world. So that's one thing that's up on my nourishment menu is, if I feel like I'm stressed out in the moment, just sing a little bit. And that really picks me up. So what I'm going to have us do is get back into pairs again. And what I want you guys to do is come up with a couple ideas of what might be on your nourishment menu. What might be a couple things that you could reach to in that moment, whether it be taking the dog for a walk or connecting with a friend or doing something like that. So I'll have you guys brainstorm a little bit and share. I'll give you guys about 5 minutes total. So go for it. Things that came up. David, what you got?
Well, I was saying that whenever I have to really dig in and actually make it work, I always have to go off and get a toilet break or a water break. And like right after lunch, a lot of times, at like 2 o'clock, I get really well at lunch. All of a sudden, I need to get up and get something to eat. And I think it's just a way of saying, time, being lazy or whatever, but it's saying just take the time out. Whether or not I need one or whether I should carb it or something else, but I think they're both just distractions so I don't actually get down and do any work. So maybe, a lap around the office or take up smoking or drinking caffeine or something.
Some other healthy habit like that. How about you, Lucy? Do you come up with anything?
Well, we were talking about stress, and I guess I was saying I'm not really sure that, I think the obvious answer is that if I relieved my stress in life, I probably wouldn't be eating crappy food. But it's not quite, it's just, there's some stresses that just can't be removed. So I know there's a link between stress and making bad choices about food. Not so sure how to easily switch that, how to get rid of it. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but it's good to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely a big issue. And that's, something I could talk with you more about if you're interested. Because definitely, for a lot of us, stress is a big issue. And figuring out how to reduce it is a big problem. We have all these responsibilities, we have work, we have family, we have all these things that we have to do. How can we make time to take care of ourselves and relax and unwind? Sometimes that just gets forgotten with all the responsibilities that we have. So, how about you, Mike? What did you come up with?
Yeah, I thought sort of linking into that, Julio had some very interesting thoughts about sort of if you have a stressful moment, instead of reaching for unhealthy food, like he said, he's found just, getting up and going for a short walk. It doesn't sound like much, but that can be enough to sort of break you out of that state of the automated, respond to stress by eating unhealthy sort of habit. I thought that was a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought for me, things like a nourishment diet, like instead of eating unhealthy food when I'm stressed, read a book, call a friend, and that can really deal with your stress and give you a little escape in a much healthier way, which I hadn't really thought of before. So.
Yeah. Karen, how about you?
I'm having a little trouble with this issue. We talked about some things, getting out of the house, maybe taking a walk or being around nature or calling a friend. But it's like just so easy to get there. It's a lot harder to stop and say, I'm gonna get out of my house, take things that used to maybe that might have given me like creative nourishment don't anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at. So this question's a little hard to figure out.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. Good stuff. How about you, Jeff? Did you come up with anything?
Well, like what you said, personally, I identify sugar with being a lack, maybe feeling disconnected somehow. So I find that I can reach out and connect to someone. And like you were mentioning, a friend that can kind of come in and fill that space. And sometimes, other times, I'm very focused on eating sweet or something. So it seems like nothing is going to kind of get in the way of that. So that's something I'm interested in learning how to shift when it just really, that's what you want, like an addiction.
Yeah. So kind of being disconnected from people or from nature or from
From myself.
Yeah, of course, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What do you guys, do you have any thoughts, any tips, ideas?
Well, I think everybody obviously has their own thing. When I get stressed out, I've kind of taught myself not to go for the food. I'll go for a walk, I'll call friends, I'll go to the gym. I associate sugar probably, I was never like a stress sugar eater. I associate it more with celebrations and parties, and you just try to fill up on other stuff when you're there. And I don't keep it at home, so it makes it easy.
Right. What do you remember?
I was a special reader, but I like what you said about the nourishment menu because it's true. Most of the things that you enjoy doing, a lot of times, I can for myself, you don't really do, or you're so busy doing all these other things that you just do that stuff that you said, you won't crave things, because you'll be filling yourself.
Yeah, so, yeah, great. Well, thanks everybody for sharing that. I'm glad they kind of came up with a couple ideas, maybe to reach for in that moment. But, so we talked a little bit about cravings. We talked about, it might be kind of the primary food. Maybe you need to maybe you need to connect with people. Maybe you need to, find a non-food way of dealing with it. Maybe water might help. Maybe it's dehydration. We talked a little bit about the balance, about the blood sugar balance, and about kind of the yin and yang concept, kind of about the stress, and trying to release stress with sugar. A couple other things, I have included it in the handouts that I gave you guys is kind of a list of a couple different things that you can look at home. But it might be, cravings might come from foods that you've eaten in your childhood that are very special to you, or like you were saying with celebrations, birthday parties or those kind of holiday events are very tied in with sugar, and maybe just being with your family and just having everyone together, you might want to reach for sugar in that moment. Seasonality, we sometimes crave different foods depending on the seasons, depending on the environment. So now it's coming into the summer where it's getting very warm outside. And so I know myself, I crave a lot more like salads and a lot more fruit and more cooling foods, more foods that have more water in them. Whereas in the winter, I find myself craving more oil and more grounded, more like root vegetables, more kind of the meats and things like that. Whereas in the summer, if it's really hot outside, I might not want to sit down and have a steak. That might just be way too much. So that's one thing is your environment. That you have to consider as well, and that might have a big role in it. Another thing might be a lack of nutrients. So your body's trying to get the nutrients it needs, and it's trying to reach out for foods, and you're just putting it, maybe you're putting in Snapple, which doesn't really have any nutrients in it. And so your body just keeps wanting more and more and more and more, find the nutrients that it thinks should be in the food, but they're not. It's not in the food. So does anybody here have cravings for chocolate? Couple people shaking their heads. That might, in a lot of people, that's actually could be related to a magnesium deficiency, because chocolate's high in magnesium, and your body's looking for the minerals it needs. So it might be reaching out and having a craving for chocolate. So that's what I was saying before about how your body has this infinite wisdom, and it's always looking. When you have these cravings, it's looking for something. It's trying to get something. The tricky part is digging down and becoming more aware of it and figuring out exactly what it needs. So that's one thing. This could be the mineral deficiency, and then I've got a few other things on here as well. But so that's a couple of things with the cravings, and we're talking about. So what do we do in that moment? So we've got, step back, take a breath, become more aware, drink some water, maybe do some of the things on the nourishment menu. What else can we do? Because that might not be enough, as you guys were kind of saying. So a couple other ideas. After the primary food and the water, one would be try to reduce caffeine if possible. Try to cut back on it. Anybody a big caffeine person? Big coffee? Karen? I know Jalil's been a coffee drinker sometimes too.
Yeah, actually what I did, I switched from coffee to tea, to green tea. Now of course I'm still sliding back from now and then because, for several reasons. The thing is, it's just, I feel better breath as well with green tea and antioxidants, and I notice I don't really need this caffeine. It's all in my head, in the end. So I would advise green tea instead of coffee.
Because the thing with caffeine is it can contribute to dehydration, contribute to the blood sugar up and downs. Caffeine's got a big effect on a lot of different systems in the body. And if you're already having this blood sugar roller coaster, it's only going to make it worse. Another thing is maybe eating more sweet vegetables and fruits. So examples of sweet vegetables are like sweet potatoes. Those are my favorite thing. I eat sweet potatoes pretty much every day. People tell me I smell like sweet potatoes.
Do you have any advice on cooking them? Because I know sometimes it prevents people from eating them because what am I supposed to do with this stuff?
What I do is I just throw it in the oven, poke a couple holes in it, throw a bunch of them in the oven for about an hour at like 375. That's it. Then I just, I can just eat them like a banana or something. So sweet potatoes, carrots. I know I can get the bags of baby carrots. Anybody else can have baby carrots? I'll just get those things and just eat the whole bag. Baby carrots, onions, all kinds of different root vegetables, squashes, winter squashes, and bell peppers. Bell peppers are great. Throw those in salads. Throw the carrots in salads, things like that. And fruits. Fruits are good things too. A lot better than the Snapple, obviously. So if you find that you need some sugar in that moment, maybe try an apple, see how it works, see if that helps you a little bit. But those are a good way to get that sweetness in your diet, because we all do crave the sweetness. We all have that taste that's I don't know where it is in us, but it's in there somewhere. Like, sweet things are good. So that's one good way to get that kind of sweet flavor. One thing you can do too is look for better sweeteners. So probably the best no-calorie sweetener that I'm familiar with is called stevia. Anybody familiar with stevia? Karen? So stevia is derived from an herb in South America And you can buy it in this white powder, or you can buy it in a liquid form. And it's a natural sweetener, so it's not like, you know, definitely stay away from the little packets, the Sweet and Low and the aspartame and the NutraSweet and the Diet Coke and all that stuff. I personally don't use any sweeteners myself, but if it helps you to get a little bit more of a handle on kind of the sugar cravings, that might be a good thing to look for. And they have it at Trader Joe's, they have it at Whole Foods, they have it, I'm not sure if they have it yet in the regular grocery stores. They do, okay. Okay. So that might be something to look out for. Raw honey is also a good choice if you want to use a sweetener, because it has all of the, you know, it has a lot of different enzymes, and it has minerals, and it has vitamins, and it's a whole food. It's real food. So that's another thing. If you could find a local farmer, or you can find some raw honey, and they have it at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and some of the different stores now. That might be an option if you're trying to work up to that sugar-free level. Which I'm not there yet either. And then we talked about a couple other things, maybe putting in some more exercise, maybe some physical activity, maybe getting up and walking around, maybe, you know, doing a couple push-ups there, getting down on your yoga mat. Anybody a yoga fan here? Doing a little bit of exercise. Getting more sleep and rest and relaxation. We were talking about stress and how we're just so tight all the time and how we need to relax a little bit. If you're not getting enough sleep, you'll probably find that, well, you're going to reach for the caffeine to keep you awake, and then that's going to start the whole cycle off again. So that's one thing to consider. And making sure you're not having any like fat-free or low-fat packaged foods. Not a fan of packaged foods in general, but those fat-free foods, they got to make them taste good somehow. So what are they going to do? They're going to put sugar in them. So definitely don't reach for the SpaghettiOs like I was talking about we had at Grandma Mary's house. That's no good. And experiment with spices. You know, you might try, if you're cooking, you might want to experiment with cinnamon. So maybe get some of the sweet potatoes and mix those up. I like mixing them up with coconut oil and put a bunch of cinnamon in it. That tastes awesome. Tastes like dessert. Like I could eat that. I could eat it like candy. Same with the baby carrots. And then we talked a little bit about kind of slowing down and trying to find the sweetness in other parts of life, whether it be connecting with people, connecting with yourself, taking a walk, doing some of those different things. So that's it. That's a handout. That's in the little packet that you guys got. So you can take that home with you and try a couple of those things out and see if they're helpful. But so kind of overall, we talked about that sugar. Maybe it's not the problem. Maybe it's the solution. Because your body, when it has these cravings, it's looking for something in that moment. Whether it's looking for a piece of fruit, or some kind of sweetness in food, or some kind of, if you're too tight and too constricted and needs more of this kind of yin-yang balance. If you're dehydrated, or if you're looking to fill a hole with food that the food can't fill, that might be the cause of the craving too. And so, obviously this is a big issue. That's why you guys are all here. We talked about kind of the bigger picture with the obesity and the cancer and the diabetes, and those things are running rampant now. But the most important thing is in our own lives. We want to be happier. We want to have steadier energy. We don't want to be angry with people after we eat sugar. We want, these are all things that we can have. These are all things that we should have. And so, I hope you guys can take a few of these tips home with you and try a couple of them out and see what works for you, because every one of us is an individual. We all have our own stories. We all have our own circumstances and situations. So maybe something I mentioned will resonate with you, and maybe some of the other things won't resonate with you. But look at what will work for you. What can you try? What can you try to implement in that moment when you get this craving? What do you think might be helpful? So before I kind of close up, I'm going to have us get together in the pairs one more time, and I just want you guys to share what the top thing was that you learned from this talk today. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes and go back and pair up together and just kind of discuss that. Who would like to share something that they came up with? What was your biggest aha, Jeff?
No, it just got me thinking when you were talking about the link between, possible link between sugar cravings and nutrient imbalance. Mm-hmm. That's something I hadn't turned my mind to before. I was wondering if can you suggest any other resource to find out more about that? Or how would you know, like you mentioned, I think it was chocolate and magnesium. Mm-hmm. Is there some resource to learn more?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely something I could talk with you a little bit more about. And we could maybe talk about some more resources.
Okay.
I guess that's a good point. It brings me to my next point, is just that I want to really appreciate you guys for coming here and for sharing your story and sharing about your sugar cravings, because I love doing this. I love speaking about food and nutrition. I love speaking about sugar. And I just want to really appreciate you guys for being here. And as kind of a thank you for you guys being here and coming, I want to offer you guys a free Kicks Sugar Strategy session, is what I call it, where I will sit down with you guys and we can talk over the phone or over Skype, or maybe if you're even close, we can meet in person. But that'll be a chance for us to sit down, and I can really dig down deeper into what's going on, with your sugar cravings and kind of what might be the cause of it. And that session will give you guys more insight onto why things are happening and what you might be able to do to go forward. So I would love to offer that to you guys because you've been here today. Does that sound like something anybody would be interested in? Awesome, great. Yeah, definitely. Now, Jaleel, you had done one of these with me before.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk about how it went?
Yeah, sure. So I had a session with Joe, and so I got a lot out of it, because as always, even if I'm big on self-development, introspection, I'm doing this all the time. And but still, on the surface level, I wanted to get better and get advice on my health. And so going from the surface, Joe could help me to dig deeper than I could on my own, to be honest. So it pointed at some things that were handles on my health, how to go to the next step. So I got a lot out of it, and I was very thankful for that. Yeah, sure.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so if you guys want to do that with me, I have a schedule in the back of times that I have available over the next 2 weeks. If you want to do that, you'll need to do it within the next 2 weeks, because then my schedule filled up after that. But so there's a few times back there. You can look at a time that might work for you, and you can write down your name in the slot. But I guess before we close, does anybody have any? I guess maybe I'll hear from another person as far as what was the biggest thing that you learned today. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I thought it was just interesting and inspiring to see that sort of everyone deals with these issues and has challenges, and sort of unhealthy eating and unhealthy food is so endemic to America that it was inspiring to see other people dealing with the same issues and probably we all need some of these resources that are out there, you know?
How about you, Karen? What's your biggest takeaway?
Sure, if I can pick just one.
Okay, well, you can pick more than one if you want to.
I think just having it in this kind of environment with other people, like you said, that we all kind of have issues, and even you, who's like a healthy young man,
Right.
issues with adrenal fatigue.
Mhm.
I was kind of really surprised.
Right.
So it was helpful to hear other people
Mhm.
talk about it.
Mhm.
You know, that
Yeah.
it's not just me, or you know, and just to have it out, you know, a sheet of look at these 10 things. You know.
Mm-hmm. Great. I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah. What do you think, David?
Well, you kind of touched on the second ago there, but I kind of, you know, like I busted up my ankle over the weekend or something like that, and everyone's like, ice it up, you know, stick it up, this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, well, the body's kind of figured out how to handle this stuff over the last few, you know, couple thousand years
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
100,000 years,
Right.
whatever you believe.
Right.
And it was interesting that you said when you came in, maybe you're hungry for a reason. Yeah, so you know, maybe I need to suck on a bar of salt or something like the animal, or salt lick or whatever it is, I don't know. But there might actually be some, not truth, but some wisdom or some insight behind that, and then maybe that is find that sticking point with that one thing that's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then go from there. So, but you know, you also said something that I had noticed and I kind of forgot about it, like you know, you can start that yo-yo effect just by taking a swig of coffee or something. And I know if I love like Lucky Charms and garbage like that, but I never eat it. But if I start my day off, like, you know, I bought a box a couple weeks ago. If I start my day off with something like that, I'm off for the whole day, and you can't stop it. So there was a couple of points that resonated with me. Just, you know, once you start that thing going, the pendulum,
Right, then it's
whatever,
just-
you're just done. You're
Pushing a rock down a hill. Yeah. How about you, Lucy? What was your biggest?
I'm interested in this, thinking more about what's happening in that moment when I just need chocolate chips instead of something else, and what is it that I'm, you know, really looking for. I don't know actually if you said this or if David said it, but this muscle, like the more times that you actually make the better choice, you're kind of building up this muscle. And this memory of, well, that's actually going to serve me better. And so there's this element of practice that's kind of nice to remember.
Yeah, definitely. So does anybody have any questions before we kind of wrap up here? Great. Awesome. Well, like I said, you know, I'm happy to if you guys would like to talk more with me, you know, you can sign up for a slot. But I just again want to thank you guys all for coming and really appreciate you for being here. And I wish you luck in your new relationship with sugar. And wherever the path may take you, I hope you guys keep me in mind, and I hope you guys let me know how it goes. And I guess kind of the final thing, if I could ask you guys to fill out, there's like an event evaluation form there. If you could just fill out that form for me and pass it back in, you can give it to Jaleel. That would be fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you.